Is there a way to find your true passion, or is that just a cliche? Well, it's definitely a cliche, and it's the sort of thing that actually annoys me quite a lot about New Age thinkers, and I would more or less put Joseph Campbell in that category. I think you can find what compels you and what might enable you to live in a high quality manner despite the suffering that's associated with life. I think you can discover that. And I think part of the way you discover that is by watching yourself and learning when it is that you're meaningfully engaged. You have to notice that. It's something that happens to you in some sense rather than something that you do. You have to notice when you're meaningfully engaged. And then you have to work to expand the amount of time that you spend in that state. But I would also say that there are moral requirements that go along with that too, because you might say, well, what if you happen to be the sort of person, for example, who finds torturing small animals meaningfully engaging? It seems like that's the sort of meaningful engagement that you probably don't want to expand. So I would say that if you're going to set up your life so that you maximize your meaningful engagement, there's a number of other things that you have to do at the same time. And one of those is that you have to get very clear about who you are and what you're doing. And so, although this would be grounds for a much longer discussion, I think that one of the things that you have to do if you're going to attempt to maximize meaningful engagement is that you also have to do such things as endeavor to stop deceiving yourself and other people in every way you possibly can. And part of the reason for that is that if you engage in deception of any sort, you pathologize the structure, first the structure of your being, but you could say you pathologize the structure of your nervous system, and then you can't trust its reports. So if you're going to rely on your nervous system's reports of meaningful engagement to guide your future activities, you better do everything you can to make sure that you're not filling that nervous system with the kind of garbage that's going to make it malfunction and give you false reports. So I think that moving towards meaningful engagement has to be associated with making truth your highest value, because otherwise you can't trust yourself as your own guide. I mean, Catholics have struggled with this for a long time from a theological perspective, because the Catholic position, roughly speaking, is that human beings are so steeped in sin that they can't trust their own instincts in relationship to good and evil, and have to use the church and the priesthood as an intermediary. And, you can obviously have an argument about that, and of course Protestants have historically done that, but you've got to give the Catholics their due. It's like people aren't pure by nature and only trammeled in their vision by sociological impediments. They're also corrupt beyond belief individually and have to use society as a source of value. So if you're going to personalize your life in some sense, you better act in a manner that makes you a reliable guide.
Don't be thinking that a blue-collar lifestyle is necessarily subservient. I mean, first of all, you can be a tradesperson, and that's a really good career choice as far as I'm concerned. It's very, very valuable. I mean, good plumbers are rare, and good carpenters are rare, and good bricklayers are rare, and they're so useful. I mean, I do a lot of renovation work. I've done an awful lot of renovation work on all the places that I've lived in, and I've learned to do a fair bit of construction and automotive body work and all those sorts of things, and I really like doing it. And, blue-collar life is not necessarily subservient at all, because you can be master of your trade's domain and be unbelievably economically useful and productive and creative and independent and autonomous. And so there's nothing necessarily subservient about that. Now, if you're thinking more about, let's say, life at the low end of a restaurant, but even there, if you're a conscientious person and you're careful and you're awake and you treat the people around you well and you do your job properly, there's also room for advancement in the private sphere. There's no reason to assume whatsoever that merely because you don't have the intellectual horsepower to work well in the domain of rapidly shifting abstractions, that your life has to be of secondary quality or or opportunity. I don't see that at all. And there's endless opportunity in the trades. And like in Toronto, for example, there's a chronic shortage of tradespeople, and there's always a shortage of qualified people for every occupation. So if I have to tell someone that they're best suited to a blue collar lifestyle, I wouldn't feel bad about it. I might say to them, well, look, let's assume you're talking to someone who has an IQ of 100, which is the IQ of the average high school graduate. You might say, well, look, unless you're super conscientious, career in something like law is probably not your best bet, because you're going to be competing with people who have IQs that are like 30 points higher than yours or 25 points higher than yours. And if you really work yourself to death, you might be able to maintain competitiveness in that domain, but you're going to be working at a powerful disadvantage, because the people that you're competing with, for example, are going to be way faster than you verbally. They're going to be able to read faster and to reason verbally faster and all of that. And it might be better to pick an ambition that's more in keeping with the quality of your temperament and your intelligence, to put it bluntly, so that you can be, but that doesn't mean that your success has to be limited. And it also doesn't mean that I'm elevating intelligence to a platform of the ultimate moral ideal, because the relationship between intelligence and moral ideal is zero. There's no relationship between them at all. Intelligence is a capacity, let's say, that can be put to ill use just as well as to good use, and there's nothing intrinsically better about smart people. They might be more useful for certain things if they're oriented towards the good, but there's no shortage of opportunity in the working class end of the world, and I can certainly understand often why people might prefer that to the endless miasma, you might say, chaotic miasma of complex abstract jobs. One of the problems with those sorts of jobs is that you're never done. You never finish. There's always more work than you can possibly do. Abortion is clearly wrong. I don't think anybody debates that. You wouldn't recommend that someone that you love have one. Okay, now, having clarified that mere statement doesn't eliminate the complexity of the situation. The first question is should everything wrong be illegal? That's a tough question. Everything that's wrong isn't illegal. Then there's the additional complication of the difference, let's say, in gravity regarding the problem in relationship to men and women. And we don't know how to deal with that. Having said that, I would say that it's actually the wrong question. There's something Leonard Cohen said once. He said that in a massacre, there's no decent place to stand. And what he meant by that was, sometimes you're where there is no good decision left. No matter what you do, it's wrong. So then the question is, how did you get there? Well, let's say you're in a position where you are inclined to seek an abortion. The question is, how did you get there? Now, we have a lot to straighten out about the sexual relationships between men and women in the modern world. They're bent and warped and demented out of shape. One of the things I see with young people, for example, is that they will engage in sexual acts with one another that they would not talk about with one another. I mean, couples will do that, for that matter, like married couples will do that, but they're married, that's a different story. It seems to me that if you are willing to engage in a sexual act with someone with whom you would not discuss that act, you probably put the cart before the horse. So, the discussion regarding the legality of abortion is nested inside a larger discussion about the morality of abortion, and that's nested inside a larger discussion about the proper place of sexuality in human behavior. And to me, that's the level at which the problem needs to be addressed. Now, I don't have an answer to that, because the old answer was get married. That's a good answer. And it's an answer that people should still listen to. But we'll put that aside momentarily. I had a client at one point who was, I don't know, she was probably, I'm going to disguise her in a variety of different ways. She was 27, 20, thereabouts, had come from a relatively conservative background, quite a timid, fearful person, and also not very well not sophisticated in relationship to relationships. And she'd never had sex. Well, there's a bunch of things she'd never done. Well, the answer from me to her wasn't continue to be timid about everything, because that wasn't working out for her. She needed to go have some adventures. Now, sexual adventures, like other adventures, are dangerous. And so you have to be very careful when you encourage people to go out and have adventures. But too much timidity and caution also constitutes a pathway to perdition, let's say. You can't just say to people in the modern world, well, no sex till you're married, unless you're going to get married when you're very young, and perhaps you should. I don't know about that. But I don't think that we're mature enough as a culture to have a serious discussion about sexual propriety, especially in the aftermath of the birth control pill. And we seriously need to do that, and we haven't. And so I think the eternal debate about abortion, horrible as it is it's the surface manifestation of a much deeper problem. Now, I talked a little bit today about the utility of marriage, like the spiritual utility of marriage. And that's something that I think we're so immaturely cynical as a culture. Like we're not wise enough to look at an institution like marriage and to really think about what it means and what it signifies. It signifies a place that people can tie the ropes of their lives together so that they're stronger. It signifies a place where people can tell the truth to one another. It signifies a place where sexuality can properly be integrated into life. That's no easy task. It's a place where children, at least in principle, can be put first and foremost as they should be once they exist. And so there's a much broader discussion that has to happen, I think, before any concentration on the legality of abortion is liable to get anywhere at all. That's what it looks like to me. So that's the best I can do with that question.